welcome you to our workshop on effective evaluation. And I'm here to give you the ground rules which are to be followed during this workshop. The first one, to keep your mics on mute when not speaking on the screen. The second one, to not post something in the public chat window when the speaker is speaking. And I would also like to announce that the moderator of this workshop is Toastmaster Shobit. And if you need any clarifications or you have any questions, you can message him on his personal window. With this, I would like to call the president of our club, Toastmaster Mudit, on the screen. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sergeant at Arms, and welcome everyone. Welcome everyone who joins us today for this amazing masterclass that we are going to witness in next 1 hour of the session. A very warm and special welcome to Toastmaster Fursey Gotuaco, our masterclass trainer for tonight. Now, before we start the meeting, here is the meeting flow and agenda. We have a 40-minute session on effective evaluation, followed by a 10 minutes question and answer session. The Q&A will be moderated by Toastmaster Shobit. So his name starts with SH. You can spot him in the chat window. And why do you want to spot him? Because if you have any questions for our trainer, you can post it to Toastmaster Shobit on his personal window. Now, this Q&A session is going to last for 10 minutes. We will have the questions that were already posted or questions from the audience there and then, after which we conclude the session. As a follow-up to this training tonight, we have an international mock evaluation contest coming Saturday. As we all know that in this tenure, in all of our clubs, we are going to conduct an evaluation contest which will go up to the division or the district level. So in order to enhance our evaluation skill, this workshop, followed by an mock evaluation contest coming Saturday, is your opportunity to take part and hone your skill, to use what you have learned tonight. This is open to all the Toastmasters from across the globe. So Toastmaster Sunil is quickly going to float the form that you would want to fill up in order to participate in that contest. Toastmaster Sunil, I'll request you to just put that form on the chat window for the benefit of everyone. On that note, now let's come back to the session for which we have joined tonight. Fursey Gotuaco, our masterclass trainer for tonight, is a famous personality in the Toastmasters circle. He is a fine arts teacher who has professionally taught speech and theater for 25 years now. He has trained hundreds of students and teachers. He is also a semi-finalist for International Speech Contest 2020, which was conducted this year. His insights today make him the one person you want to listen to regarding effective evaluation. Let us put our hands together for our masterclass trainer joining us all the way from Texas, United States, Mr. Fursey Gotuaco. The stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mudit. Thank you so much for inviting me to this auspicious event. Boy, I tell you, it sounds like we've got some very experienced people who bring a lot of wonderful evaluation perspective to this meeting. So thank you all for being here today, whether it's your nighttime, your daytime, or somewhere in between. Thank you very much. I'm honored. Let's get straight to the point. What is the purpose of the evaluation? We all understand the notion of evaluate to motivate, to take care of the person who we are evaluating, and how do we move them forward? How do we move them forward in such a way that they want to continue to be evaluated? Not everyone wants to be evaluated. Let's accept that to begin with. Some people accept the fact that they have to be evaluated, but they really just want to keep speaking. But how do we move them forward? There are those who have just come to our Toastmaster clubs, and they must be handled carefully. There are those who are veteran speakers, DTM, and they must be handled carefully. We must understand first what we bring to our role as evaluators. We all have tremendous amounts of experience. Some of that experience is evaluating speeches. Some of that experience is evaluating people. Some of that experience is evaluating work. Some of that experience is evaluating food. Even as we go to restaurants, even as we watch movies, we say, oh, this is good, that's bad. Oh, this tastes wonderful, or I expected better. How do we take all of that into consideration? How do we consider our assumptions? What we think is there. Is it really there? Is what we think we're seeing really what we're seeing, what we saw? Remember, as we're evaluating speeches, it happens very quickly, very quickly. We don't have a chance to go back and get instant replay. Allow me to ask you this question. If you were to imagine with me a pile of rocks, what would that look like? What would a pile of rocks look like? So if I asked you to describe for me this pile of rocks, maybe even a stack of rocks, if I were to stack some rocks on top of each other, what do you assume this stack looks like? Each of you now has a picture in your mind, a stack of rocks. What does each rock look like? The general shape, specific shape. What does the stack look like? A pyramid, very nice. Lovely. So we all bring assumptions to our evaluations, and I think it's critical that we understand what role that plays. There is a role for all the history that we bring to our evaluation. There is a role for it. And we have to be careful how we use that lens, how we use that lens through which we view and listen to our speaker. Here is our stack of rocks. Is it visible to everyone? The trouble with screen sharing is sometimes it's not exactly what everyone is seeing, what I'm seeing on my screen. Is it SAA? Can you still see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Stack of rocks. I'd venture to say it's probably not what everyone imagined in their mind, certainly not a pyramid. The shape of the rocks, the shape of the stack. As we are listening to our speakers, we must make sure that we are hearing what they are saying, and we also must hear what they are not saying. We must see exactly what they are doing, down to the details, and see what they are not doing. It's important that we do not try to shape them in the vision of what we have for ourselves from our histories and our perspectives. Because that speaker is trying to move forward in their journey. And our role as evaluators is not necessarily to say, you should have done it this way because this is my perspective of a journey. But rather, I see what you are trying to do on your journey. Here's how you can go farther on your journey, which is going to be different from my journey. I'd like to go ahead and give you a different picture now. We're going to look at this picture, and what I want you to do is first just tell me what you see. Only tell me what you see compared to what we assume. Compared to what we assume. We will do that second, but first, what do you specifically see? I'm going to give you a few seconds to take a look. SAA, if you'll let me know if my screen is inaccurate, sir. Right now, there should be a picture with several people in it.
Yes, it is a picture with several people sitting in the office.
Fantastic. How do we know it's an office, SAA? Yeah, sorry, I've just pulled you into the conversation. You didn't even know I was going to do it. But now that you said it's an office, how do we know it's an office? What do you see?
Background.
Excuse me?
Background with office equipments.
Oh, such as?
Computer, table. They are looking like colleagues.
How do we know they are colleagues?
Also, they're dressed formally.
Are they dressed formally?
Yes.
Formal. Yeah.
Which ones are dressed formally?
Was standing in attire.
This one?
Yeah.
They are dressed formally? What tells you formal?
Blazer, trouser. Another sitting also having the blazer, trouser. Yes.
Well, you said trouser. Are we sure he has trousers?
No, it must have been in trouser.
Hey, all of us in Zoom land, we all understand.
So, he will not go office without trouser.
But we don't know for sure it's an office. That's why I'm asking, is it an office? How do we know? What is it that we're seeing that indicates office?
It's an office of a startup.
How do we know that?
Some people are dressed casually.
Which ones are dressed casually?
The one with the back to the one whose back is visible to us. Yeah, this one. Yeah, the one wearing jeans.
Jeans. Ah, okay. Do you see how we must be very, very specific? Again, we jump to conclusions very quickly because our minds think so fast. But remember, an office in one place looks different from an office in another. And formal in one place looks different from formal in another. And so we have to be very careful about what it is that we are giving feedback on. And are we being as objective as possible? And are we being as uninterpretive as possible without that subjectivity? Jeans, we see jeans. We see a blazer. We don't see trousers on this individual, but we do see trousers on this one. Jeans and trousers in the same location. Is this formal? Is this formal? What do we not see here?
His tie.
A tie.
Cannot.
Yes, we do not see a tie. Does that mean it's informal because we don't see a tie? Or is that acceptable as formal in other areas of the world?
Yeah, it is acceptable to the other.
Okay, What else tells us office? What do you see?
I can see this office is having a table and they are discussing, doing brainstorming, getting new ideas.
How do we know that? How do we know it's an office? How do we know they're brainstorming? How do we know they are new ideas?
Because they are discussing, trying to get some ideas for their project to get
How
some
do we
new
know?
things.
What I'm asking
Because
is, are these all things that we're creating in our mind to fill in the gaps, or are these things really happening? Are you sure that they're actually brainstorming and working, or are they on a break?
of course they are doing brainstorming and ideas, which I can see,
Well,
and they are
no,
discussing.
this is why I have to hold back on that. I'm not so sure that I can agree with your assumptions. I think it's an assumption. I think it's a great assumption. I think you've done a marvelous job creating a story based on what you see. But the first question we must ask ourselves is, what do we see? What is something that you can say about this picture that no one else can argue? It is fact.
I think it's a room.
They are having a tea break.
What is this? I heard it's a room. What was the second thing I heard?
They
Now
are
I
having
more
a tea break.
detail on this.
There was a lady, I think, speaking. Would you repeat, ma'am?
I was saying they are having a tea break
How do we know?
because there's a cup of tea on the table, and I guess a fruit salad maybe.
Where
And
is the cup of tea?
the lady is like near her hand.
Which
Yeah,
lady?
this one. The blue with the one who is dressed in blue.
This
No,
one.
the other one. The other one. No, yeah, that's one.
Cup of tea?
Yeah.
They're discussing something very important.
How do we know that?
Because
How do we know
see,
they're
they are
discussing?
concentrating. They are concentrating. Everybody's looking at the person who is sitting on the left chair.
Oh,
And then
well,
they,
see, we must ask that. We must ask, is everyone looking at that one person?
yeah,
How do we know? Which person is it? Which person are you saying that they're looking at? This one?
no, yeah, this one, yeah.
This
No, not
particular one. This one? Are you saying that they're all looking at this one?
No. The blue t-shirt.
Blue.
The arrow, or yeah, this one.
This one.
Yeah.
Is everyone looking at this one?
No. It seems two discussions are happening at the same time.
How do we know? What do you see?
Three are happening. Three.
One-to-one conversation, I think.
This person
There are
right
two discussions. There are two discussions happening at the same time.
No, three discussers. Color? Color?
Yes.
Three discussers.
Yeah.
How do you know? We're making a lot of assumptions here. We're making a lot of assumptions. How do we know?
Yeah. The last row in boy and girl. Another, this one. Another in black race girl and man. This one. And three people discussion with another discussion.
I want to interrupt.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they are discussing about some important topic, and each one is sharing his or her views.
How do we know that? Because it doesn't look like these two are paying attention to anything going on here. And
Actually, three groups are having eye contact. The first one is looking at one another, and the second one and the third one, and the other one is overlooking the man in the coat. So,
you said to the last person who spoke, you said something I think is important: eye contact. So
yeah.
we say
eye contact.
could we say that there is eye contact here?
Yeah, yeah, it's there.
Would anybody argue that there is eye contact here?
Yes,
It's
I
here.
would.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. The person wearing the yellow sweater, we can't see his eyes, so we can't be sure that he's having eye contact. So again, it can be a false assumption.
Nice. Very nice. Oh, lovely, lovely. Now we're getting to it. We see we must differentiate between what is fact and what is assumption. We must. Now, that's not to say that assumption is wrong, but it is to say that fact has to be the basis for the assumption. Does that make sense? Fact must be the basis for assumption. When you tell a speaker, you cannot be heard, well, maybe you couldn't hear them based on where you were sitting. Have you thought about the distance you are from the speaker? Have you thought about the acoustics of the room? Because it might very well be that you are in the first row, but the acoustics of that particular room, the sound goes around the outside and does not go to the middle. So you're saying you couldn't hear, but everyone else in the room could hear. This is something I've encountered as a theater teacher, being in many different spaces. When we talk about eye contact, we must be able to say, did you see the speaker have eye contact with all parts of the room? Your feedback to the speaker might be, you made very good eye contact to that side, but I did not see you looking and making eye contact with this side. I saw you making eye contact with the first two rows, but I did not see you making eye contact with the back row of speakers. So the more precise we can be, the better we can help our speakers. Does this make sense? That's how we can be very helpful to those who are advanced speakers. Because our advanced speakers, they might be very casual, they're very relaxed, they're moving forward, they understand how to use a PowerPoint, but maybe they forget that there are people in the back row that they might not be addressing specifically, and instead they're only looking at the people in the front row. It's also possible that we could hear them because they had a microphone on. They had a microphone, so we could hear them. But are they really projecting? Are they really projecting themselves to the back row? Or are they only kind of whispering right here? This is, take a look at the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint is very loud. And they're only looking at the front row and they're mumbling into the microphone. So the back row can hear sounds, but they don't feel like they're being engaged. The back row doesn't feel like they're being engaged because you're not projecting yourself and you're not making eye contact with that back row. Something to consider. What are we actually seeing? Could we make an assumption that this is an office? Probably. Would we be right? Probably 95%. Based on what? No one talked about the floor. You know, good grief. It's probably not somebody's house because I don't think most people would want this kind of floor in their house, but just a thought. Just a thought. We can look at the computer and immediately make an assumption that it's an office, but what really tells us that it's an office? Because all of you have computers in your houses. All of you have desks, and well, not all of you, but most of you probably have desks in your homes, and you all have computers. Does that make it an office? The Rolodex, I don't know. It probably tells us how old this picture is. So the idea is, how can we use certain verbiage that's very specific rather than verbiage that is assumption? All right, let's take a look at something that we are all very familiar with, but probably haven't paid much attention to. Why? Because we all think we know what it says. Who recognizes this? The evaluation form. And it's from the very first level. And those of you who have been here since before Pathways, we all feel the same way, right? I mean, the evaluation forms and Pathways are kind of generic. They are quite generic. There's very little difference between them. So I'm going to take advantage of that this time. And just for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to take a look at a quote unquote generic form. Notes to the evaluator. Oh, good grief. You excelled at, you may want to work on to challenge yourself. Have we ever really thought about what the difference is between some of these things? We understand you excelled at, and we kind of understand what you may want to work on. Do we really know what it is to challenge somebody? What does that really mean? I'm going to have you keep that in your back pocket. We'll come back to it. All right, let's take a look at this. Clarity, vocal variety, eye contact. Let's think about vocal variety. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to make an assumption. I'm going to make an assumption that most of us, when we listen to a speech and we like it and they're blowing us away, that we immediately give that person a 5. Some of us might give the person a 4. But we think, wow, you're good. I'm going to give you a 5. Why do I make that assumption? Because when I get evaluations, a lot of people give me a 5. And I'm not so sure I deserved a 5. I'm not so sure I deserve straight 5s down the left-hand side. I think a lot of times people give me 5s because they're kind of scared. They're kind of scared of giving me anything less than a 5. In their minds, they're thinking, I don't know as much as the bald Chinese guy talking. I think he's very good. I'm entertained. I clap real loud. I'm going to give him a 5. Did I really deserve a 5? Let's take a look. Vocal variety. Oh, look, there's a third page. There's a third page. Did you know that? Come on now. A lot of us totally ignore the third page, right? We fill out this stuff. We completely ignore this. We're not sure what to do with that. We go to this. We circle, 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 circle. Do we even write comments over here? Or do we, in our minds, start preparing for 2 to 3 minutes of an evaluation? I have been guilty of that. I'm getting ready for my 2 to 3 minutes of evaluation. And I forget, what can I really put here that can help my speaker move forward from where they're at? I have some new speakers, and they're going to need tender, loving care. I have some veteran speakers. They're going to need some tender, loving care. But what kind of care? Let's take a look. The evaluation criteria. Vocal variety. Take a look at this one. If you give them a 1, it's because they have ineffective use of tone, speed, and volume. What's the most important word in that sentence or that phrase? It's not really a sentence.
Ineffective.
Ineffective.
I would agree with you. I would agree. Ineffective. I completely agree. Number 2, what's the most important word? Use of tone, speed, and volume requires further practice.
Tone.
Practice.
Requires further practice.
Tone.
Further.
Oh, we have some difference of opinion. We have some difference.
I think the pace, the speed.
Further is the most important.
One thing that you can look at is what is different between 2 and 1. What is the difference between 2 and 3? Because we might say that tone is very important. We must have tone. That's why my mother always looked at me and said, don't use that tone of voice with me. But if tone and speed are used here and here and here and here, can we really say it's the most important word in that phrase? Does this make sense? So we have to ask ourselves, what is really the difference between the 5, the 4, the 3, the 2, and the 1? We cannot just simply look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and assume that if it's something I enjoy, it deserves a 5, because then we're not really doing justice to our speaker. And that's who we serve. We serve our speakers. So when we look at variety, vocal variety, take a look at this word, excels. Compare the use of the word excels to uses. They use tone, speed, and volume as tools, whereas this is excels. And look at this word, perfection. Was it really perfect, or was it something I enjoyed? If we look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we must look at, what is it we don't see? What is it we don't see on this page? That. Developing, emerging. Look at number 3, accomplished. Accomplished. But in our minds, we assume that if something is enjoyable and I liked it, it was exemplary. But for most of us, when we like something and we enjoy it and we think it's great, isn't that really this word right here? It's accomplished. Or maybe it's excels. But is it really exemplary? Because for something to be exemplary, that's level 5, for something to be exemplary, it must always understood. An exemplary public speaker is always understood. Every single word, every single sound. An exemplary speaker is perfection, uses tone, speed, and volume to perfection. That doesn't mean we can hear it for volume. That doesn't mean that the speed is just about right, not just about right. And that doesn't mean that the tone is lovely. It means it was used to perfection. Is it perfect? Eye contact. Let's look at eye contact, because a lot of people really think of eye contact as a binary situation. They did or they didn't. They made eye contact or they didn't. They made eye contact or they didn't. When we're here on Zoom and people look at the screen, that's not eye contact. That's eye contact. Looking into that little dark hole with the little green light next to it. Not being able to see their audience member at all. Just hoping that the audience has not been turning off their cameras. Eye contact. But how are they using eye contact? Let's take a look at it. Number 1 is easy, yes? Makes little or no eye contact with the audience. Okay. If they're looking at the notes, at their notes, little or no contact. How about when they're looking at the PowerPoint? Like my students, they start looking at the PowerPoint for reference, and pretty soon they're doing this for the whole meeting. And I know all of you are thinking, well, the front of his face isn't so much to look at, but the back of his head, even worse. So I know some of you have wonderful hairstyles, but we must make sure that your audience is looking into your eyes, because your eyes convey so much more than the back of your head, no matter how perfectly coiffed you are. Number 2, it needs improvement. Yes, needs improvement. Eye contact with audience needs improvement. You're looking, but maybe you're not looking at everyone, or maybe you spent a lot of time looking up there. Number 3, oh, it's tricky. Take a look at number 3. And here's the word. Bam. Engage. What does that mean? How do you engage an audience with your eye contact? We're not at the Starbucks looking at someone across the table, engaging them. How do we engage an audience of 500 people or even 10 people around the table? How do I engage using eye contact? Consider when you look at somebody in the audience, do you stay with them for a long period of time or a short period of time? Again, let's be specific. Let's not make assumptions. Let's be very specific. You can, as an evaluator, say, when you made eye contact and you made a very strong point, I think you could, as a speaker, stay with that audience member and make sure that they feel that point. An effective note, yes. What I didn't see you do, what I did not see you do as a speaker was make eye contact and then take that same point and make eye contact with somebody else. With the same point. This might require you to repeat a certain phrase, or it might require you to use a certain word more than once, but that allows you to make eye contact, and that allows you to make eye contact. Because take a look at eye contact. Number 4, uses eye contact to gauge audience reaction. Are they in a dialogue with the audience? We forget when we speak, it is a dialogue. When we speak, it is a dialogue. A speaker, as odd as this sounds, must be just as receptive to what his or her audience is saying and doing. Are they responding? Are you seeing heads nod? Or are you moving back and forth so much you didn't even see the heads nod? Did you see the eyes of the person in your audience going, they look like a German Shepherd, don't they? Did you see that? Did you see that as a speaker? And what would you do? And then take a look at 5, use eye contact to convey emotion and elicit response. So to convey emotion, we must also look at the vocal variety, because are we using vocal variety to communicate emotion? And then are you aware of your audience? Not just in terms of what they need from the topic, but what they need from your eyes. Do your eyes communicate that you're understanding? That doesn't just mean the eyeball, it really means all of this. Right? We can smile, we can laugh. We can laugh because we see our audience laughing. We can laugh. We can laugh with our eyes too. We can laugh with our eyes. Just think of the last person you fell madly in love with. We can laugh with our eyes. Could we give that critique? Could we give feedback to someone on that? How would we do that? So consider all of these different pieces and how they might work together. Look at that. Appears completely self-assured, comfort level. How do we know that someone is self-assured? Most times when we think of self-assured, we think of they stood there, they moved away from the lectern, almost a binary thing. Did you move away from the lectern or did you stay there? Completely self-assured. Were their gestures so self-assured that they sustained them? They kept it up there. Or was it, I gesture, I drop. I gesture, I drop. I point, I drop. I go up, I drop. That's not self-assured. That's a bouncing ball. If we're really self-assured, we can pause. Why is pausing self-assured? Because I'm still confident even though I'm silent. I'm confident even though I'm silent. After all, that's what all those crutch words are, right? You're not sure. You're scared that your audience is going to turn off the TV if you pause. You're scared they're going to turn the channel if you pause. You're scared they're going to go look at that really cute person down the road if you pause. Mudit, I'm not just talking about you. Everybody else does it too. Sorry, Mudit. I had to make fun of you just a little. We pause. We look. So now we can combine comfort level with eye contact with audience awareness. Now the score starts to go up. Now we can give them feedback, not just on individual elements, but how the elements work together. Critical. So remember that you have comments here. When we give an evaluation, we're all looking at the 2 to 3 minutes of evaluation. That's only 2 to 3 minutes. You can write things here. You can write lots of things here and make sure that your subject, your evaluee, your protege, your mentee, your subject, that they have something to look at even after the meeting, because they may not be able to write down everything you say. And I want them to. I want them to listen to everything you're saying, and I want them to remember everything you're saying, because what you're saying has great value. It has great value. But if you can't say everything in 2 to 3 minute evaluation, then you can write it down and give them something to think about, especially the good things. We like to come back to those things. I'm going to go ahead and play you a video next. I'd like for you to critique this friend of mine, my friend. His name is Justin. Just in time. Sorry, bad joke. Mudit laughed though. That's why I like Mudit. He's my best friend. Why? Because he laughs at all my bad jokes. All right, here is my friend, just in time. And I'm gonna see if I can get the video running. Did it go? Yes. Is it visible? And is it visible to the whole screen?
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much.
I want to.
Good. Now, before we speak his first real word, think about what you really see, what you really hear. That's my question on this one. What did you really see? What did you really hear? No assumptions. No assumptions. Just first level. We'll get to the assumptions later. Just the first level. What do you really see? What do you really hear?
Today about the subway. And I like getting on the subway because it's fast and it's faster than walking, and it's cheaper than like if you take a taxi, but it gets really crowded, and it just gets crowded, you know, and people smell. Sometimes people really smell. So that's well, okay. So that's what I do in the subway, and it's cheap, and it's fast. Thank you.
Fantastic. Timer, how much time do I have left?
So we have 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Thank you. What did you see, ladies and gentlemen? Give me one thing that you saw, just one.
I saw you.
You saw me. Good. Good. You saw me, Mr. Time, Mr. Just in Time, as opposed to Mr. Morrow, my other cousin, Mr. Morrow, Mr. Tom Morrow. What else? What else did you see? What else did you hear?
repeating that same sentence twice.
Good. Repetition of the same sentence twice. That was an excellent point of feedback, sir. Because one could say, well, you repeated it and you kept repeating yourself and it was awful. Or you could say, yes, repeating yourself for a main point is very good. But we don't know that yet. But you did say he repeated himself. Well done. Excellent. Somebody else? What did you see? What did
Very
you...
less information.
Sorry, would you repeat that?
Less information.
Less information. Good.
Hi. He was quite repetitive with the filler word and also was too confident while delivering the speech. Lack of confidence in his body language.
How do you know lack of body language or lack of body confidence? What specifically did you not see?
He was looking down always.
The eye gestures, I would say, the movement of the eyes. When I saw that speech, the kind of his eyes were not moving the way it should. The eye contact which should have been maintained. There was a lot of lack of confidence over there.
Again, I agree with you, but would you backtrack just a little bit? And what is it that was a lack of confidence? How would we see confidence? Because it's not like it goes confident, right?
Right. I agree.
What
his arms were constricted, like towards the body. They should be open. For example, the shoulders should be wide.
Shoulders should be wide. Very specific. Thank you. What else?
And he was looking down all the time. He was not looking up.
Looking down all the time. Thank you. What else did you see? What else did you not see? What else did you hear? What else did you not hear?
The use of ahs and ums.
He used them well, didn't he? He kept using that
Good work for that.
He was fidgety.
I mean, he was just waiting to get to that 4-minute mark, right? Good job. Yes, lots of ums, and then we'll leave it to the ah counter to decide exactly how many. Something tells me the ah counter is going to be busy with just in time.
Lots of and usage also, and constant repetition of the word and.
Yes, as if it was going out of style. Good. Constant repetition of the use of the word.
And look, he was not very confident about what he is going to speak. He was not, maybe he doesn't remember what he has to say. So there was a lot of lack of practice, we can say.
He was not willingly speaking.
Can we say it's a lack of practice? Maybe he practiced real hard. He's just not good.
The tone.
Interest. He was not interested in his own speech, it seemed.
Well, how can we address that? How could we tell someone, I don't think you practiced, or how can we tell someone, I don't think you had a written speech or even a structured speech. I don't think you knew where you were going next, because those are all assumptions on our part. What can we say about it, though? What did we see, hear or not hear that led us to that conclusion?
The tone and volume was constant and he kept looking away.
The tone and volume was constant. He kept looking away. Good. I like that. Anything else?
No hand gestures.
Sorry?
No hand gestures.
Okay.
He kept hands together all the time, which depicts that he was not confident. His hands were closed. It shows that maybe not very open.
Agreed. Thank you. Good work. Anything else? How would you specifically say something that leads to this person having a more structured speech or a more developed speech next time?
Firstly, I feel that he wasn't enjoying delivering his own speech. That enthusiasm, that zeal was missing. Usually when we are there delivering our speech, we are full of enthusiasm, eager to converse with the audience. The presentation is very energetic, whereas he was very low, as if he just has to finish it off and wrap it up.
Yes, he was giving it under pressure. He was not willingly doing it. He was under pressure to give it.
When he starts his speech, if he could have greeted everyone, he could got those positive vibes from everyone, and that could have elevated his speech more. his mood, and maybe he could have felt more confident while receiving that warmth from everyone.
Very good. Very good.
I would
Because
say that
because of time, I'm going to hold us there. One of the things that I've found in this kind of format is that we are definitely looking and hearing a lot of things about delivery. And what we want to make sure is to connect, whoa, red light. What we want to do is make sure that we connect all these symptoms, that we connect all of these to the structure of the speech as well. That when we talk about evaluation, can we give evaluation to the content of the speech, the structure of the speech? Some of you have heard this before. We don't evaluate the speaker, we evaluate the speech. And yet, I'd venture to say that 99% of the things that we talked about were about the speaker. And so much of that evaluation form is the speaker, not the speech. So we have to make sure that we're also looking at the format of the speech, the content. How can we take what we see and what we hear and link it to that content? Can we say the information seemed disjointed? And maybe if there was a clearer path of logic, the speaker might have a clearer path to success. Maybe, I don't know. But maybe we can challenge ourselves to help each other through that as well. I'm going to hold there because the timer has held up the red light. So I'm going to hold there. All right, I believe we're going to Q&A now, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, who's got some Q&A?
So I'll hand over the stage to Toastmaster Shobit, who has got all the questions for us. Stage is yours, Shobit, to conduct the Q&A.
All right, thank you so much, Mudit. We are running out of time, to be honest. So let's just be in a hurry. And so many questions you might have in your brain, just post it right here, and we will choose. I already got some questions already. So in the meantime, the rest of them will post some on my personal chat window. I will go on with the first question, which was posed by Sony, Toastmaster Sony. And she said, how can the evaluator change his evaluation depending on varied experience level of the speakers?
That's excellent. Some of it goes with what you say publicly and what you write in your notes. To someone who might be a first-time speaker, the icebreaker, I'm going to give a lot of positive notes verbally in front of everybody. You did this great. You did that great. How fabulous that was. You got up here. That was great. That was fantastic. Holy smokes. This was really the first step for you on your journey, and what a great step it was. I've only said one thing that was actually specific. Everything else was a lot of stroking, like I'm talking to my dog. Good job, way to go, way to go. They only did one thing, but there's a lot of positives. But what have I written? Here's the next step. They want to know what's the next step. The next step is we get rid of the script out of your hand. The challenge might be in 10 speeches, you will accomplish X, Y, Z. Remember, we had what you excelled at, what you need to work on, what's your challenge. I like to think of the challenge as something that may not be solved in the next speech. It might take 5 to 10 speeches. It might. It just might. That's okay though. That's okay though, because we all can have long-term goals. A long-term goal for a veteran speaker is sometimes more abstract, more subtle, more precise. The long-term goal for an icebreaker speech is now you're going to take the evaluation and move forward with it. Toastmaster.
Right. Thank you so much, Fursey. I think it answers the question. The next question is from one of our guests from Egypt. The name is Galal. We all know him. The question is, what are your views on false motivation, false evaluation?
I don't know what that is. I try to be as authentic as possible. If I'm going to tell you something that you did well, it's going to be something that I believe you did well and you should continue to do. It's also possible that the thing that I want you to work on is something that you did well. It's also possible that the thing that I want you to build on is not what you did poorly, but what you did well. Continue to do that. Leverage that. I don't believe in telling someone that they did something well that they did not do well. Focus on what they did well so that you build that trust between yourself and the speaker. The trust must be there. If you don't trust your evaluator, they've tuned you out already.
All right, that answers, I hope that answers the question. Now we are getting so many questions, but we have limited time. So I'm gonna choose the ones that seems most relevant to what Fursey spoke. And the third question would be from Simsim, District 80. The question is, could the speaker tell us about more how to write the last segment and how to challenge the speaker?
I touched on this a second ago, but I know that the question came before my answer. To challenge the speaker, you want to look at something that might take a little bit more effort. It might take 2 to 3 to 4 to maybe even 10 speeches. For example, you talked about something so important and so heartwarming in your speech, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to encourage you and challenge you to allow yourself to be more vulnerable. And maybe that means you share a story that's more sensitive, or maybe it means you take more pauses and allow the emotions to come. It's going to take a long time for that to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen next month. It's going to take 5 to 10 speeches to be more vulnerable, or even to pay attention to the back row and really feel what they're thinking.
Amazing, amazing. For the next question, we have Miggy Irikta, if that's how the name is pronounced. I'm sorry if not. She's from Philippines. The question is, how do you sharpen your observational and listening skills? Fursey already answered it. It takes time, but can you tell us more about like some exercises or things that you would have done over the course of years that improved your skills?
I think any of you could do exactly what we did today. You take a picture and ask yourselves, what am I really seeing? What are my assumptions? When I look outside and I see people at the bus stop, what am I really seeing? What are my assumptions? You're sitting across from someone on the bus. What am I really seeing? Am I seeing everything? Am I seeing their hands? Am I seeing their eyes? Am I seeing their hair? Am I seeing the wig, not the hair? Am I seeing the shoes? Am I seeing the sandals?
All right, all right. And now we have one last question, and apologies, I would have to end it right over here. But the last question is, how does the evaluator get ready for an evaluation in 5 minutes? And she is talking about the contests, I assume. And yeah, so that is the question.
I think you have to pick and choose your battles. I made this mistake. As a teacher, I had to give you lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of feedback, but that's because I had weeks to help you. As an evaluator, and I don't get a chance to talk with you afterwards, 2 or 3 things. That's it. Pick your big ones. Pick the big ones. If you really want to nail the evaluation and you're like, man, how do I come up with something that nobody else in the room thought of? Look at that form. Look at the evaluation form and look at number 5. What's the key word? And bring that up. You know, I saw you making eye contact, but I didn't see you always do it. And I didn't see you do it with the back of the room. Key in on that, elaborate on that. You only have to make one point. It's your elaboration that clarifies and shows how great a speaker you are and how much you know, because you were able to elaborate on that one single point that everyone goes, oh, he's right. He didn't look at the back of the room. Everyone's frozen, or am I frozen? Okay.
You were frozen for a second. All right, no problem. So this is the moment when we wrap up the Q&A session, and I apologize for the ones who were not chosen, and you can still reach out to Fursey on the personal window and still go to the recordings to see the incredible insights that Fursey has given us. So giving back to Mudit, and thank you.
Thank you, and wow, what a session it was. A quick question. How many training sessions have you attended that lasted for an hour and yet you felt that you want more? Now we have covered 1 hour of the session. Can you believe it? How many of us saw their assumptions being broken down today? Well, I certainly did have a relook on the way I evaluate these speeches. And a very honest confession, page number 3 of the feedback form, I never looked at you. So thank you so much, Fursey, for that. Now, with this session, I'm going back with a lot of respect for that page number 3 that I never looked at. And probably I never took a printout of it when I went to those physical meetings. I just took the first 2 pages. So thank you for that. Let us quickly move on to hearing from 1 or 2 of our guests. We have President from Anchor Toastmaster who joins us from Kenya, Toastmaster Caroline. Would you quickly let us know your feedback about the session?
Oh, yeah, thank you so much, Mudit. I have learned so much. I also confess that I'm one of those people who tend never to look on the 3rd page. I have learned a lot also about facts, that they should be based, that assumptions should be based on facts, and also about how elements work together. How about the comfort levels that I can hold a gesture? I'm jumpy, I'm a sanguine, so I tend to do a lot of this. So for me, that's the biggest take home. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And thank you so much, everyone who joined us in this session today. And now, to sharpen your skills, this was a training. We have this form on your chat window, and we have international evaluations coming up Saturday. So fill up that form, and whatever you have learned tonight, give it a go at 3 p.m. India time, Saturday. Quickly on that and moving forward, I would like to thank Fursey for joining us tonight from the bottom of our hearts. Big thank you from Chandigarh Toastmasters and from Toastmasters International Clubs who are joining us from across the globe. Fursey, you really helped us tonight in breaking down our assumptions. On that note, we have a small honorary certificate that our VP Education would like to share on the screen. So let us have that certificate.
Yeah.
Let us unmute ourselves and give a round of applause to this amazing session we have had.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Fursey, for sharing those insights. And this is the time we officially end the session, and you can unmute, and probably for a couple of minutes, the window is open. We can have a chit chat. The session, the workshop, the masterclass for tonight is officially over.